Exclusive contracted novel by Feilu Novel Network. Hungry Wilderness. Overwhelming understanding. Mythical Big Luo strong billion points Chen Qing came to the wasteland and became a human race after birth. Coincidentally, the three saints announced to the Honghuang Heaven and Earth to recruit disciples in the Kunlun Mountains. After enduring hardships, he successfully became a disciple of the Tongtian Sage and became a disciple of the Jiejiao Outer Sect. When he learned that the Earth Immortal also had the end of his life, he decisively chose to create his own cultivation method. With the help of his supernatural understanding, he created his own cultivation method, the Mythical Dharma of the Great Luo.When Chen Qing preached to the sage, he opened up the Milky Way, condensed his own teachings, and established his own independent time and space. Taiqing, Yuqing, and Shangqing looked at each other with disbelief in their eyes. Is this an earthly immortal? Are you sure this is an earthly immortal? He broke through a world immortal. Why did the true spirit merge into the Tao fruit? Isn't that something that the Luo Jin Xian can do? Why did the long river of time and space appear? Is he really breaking through the underworld? Countless years later, when everyone looked at Chen Qing, they saw that he was enveloped by the Tao, indescribable and indescribable. He had already surpassed all time, space, and time, surpassing all tangible and intangible things. Introduction is limited, please refer to the main text. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 1. Kunlun Mountain, the Three Saints Collecting Disciples. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Kunlun Mountain is the top blessed land and cave of the vast and desolate world. In the mountains, the innate spiritual energy is extremely rich. Clouds and clouds surround the mountainside, and halfway up the mountain, shrouded in mist, only a hazy view can be seen. In the mountains, thousands of cranes roam the sky, countless grass and wood elves run around on the ground, and there are also many exotic beasts running around. Strange flowers and plants can be seen everywhere, and innate elixirs can be found everywhere. Several spiritual springs are flowing with spring water, flowing towards both sides. After watching for a while, Chen Qing headed towards the foot of Kunlun Mountain. 1,000 years ago, Taizi Laozi, Yuqing Yuanshi, and Shangqing Tongtian became holy on the same day, and declared that the Honghuang Heaven and Earth would be taken as disciples in the Kunlun Mountains, preaching to the Honghuang Heaven and Earth. Chen Qing is a person from later generations. When he saw a car about to collide with a child, he rushed up to save the child. However, he was killed by the car and somehow managed to cross over. The current body is just an acquired spirit, but due to the abundance of innate spiritual energy in the vast world, over time, it has also reached the realm of refining emptiness. After hearing the announcement of Shangqing becoming a saint, I thought of coming to Kunlun Mountain to try my luck and see if I could worship the sage. He knows everything, and if he could worship under the sage's door, at least now, his own life is non-existent, and under the sage's door, he can still practice well. Nowadays, the Honghuang Heaven and Earth is still at a time when the two tribes of witches and demons are fighting against each other. Within the Honghuang Heaven and Earth, all ethnic groups are subordinate to the witches or demons. The human race, although created by the sage of Nuwa, can temporarily remain isolated due to its own weakness and the protection of the sage of Nuwa and Laozi of Taiqing. Taiqing Laozi had a neutral relationship with the human race and had a close relationship with the human religion. However, for the time being, the human race would not be harassed and could develop peacefully. When Chen Qing learned that the three saints were recruiting disciples in the Kunlun Mountains, he set out directly from his clan and went through countless hardships along the way, traveling billions of miles, and finally arrived at this Kunlun Mountain. At the foot of Kunlun Mountain at this time, there are already millions of creatures standing there, all discussing. Upon seeing this, Chen Qing also walked over and listened attentively. After listening for a long time, I realized that the sage had set up a large formation. If I wanted to become a disciple, I needed to enter the formation. Only by breaking through the formation can I become a disciple of the sage. The path of the sage is not so easy to cultivate. The sage is the most top-notch existence in the vast world. To worship the sage, one needs to go through trials. And this great formation has already turned away millions of incoming creatures. Due to different paths and philosophies, the three saints each set up their own formations. Laozi Taiqing emphasized the importance of both inaction and action, and emphasized the importance of tranquility and inaction. The grand formation he established tested his understanding of the path of inaction. The grand formation set up by Yuqing Yuanshi is a test of footwork, mentality, and understanding. The first priority is footwork. If one excels in footwork, their mentality and understanding may be inferior, and they can still pass. The great formation set up by Shangqing Tongtian emphasizes whether there is a connection between master and disciple. If there is a connection, one can pass through the great formation. After learning about it, Chen Qing looked at the three major formations with a thoughtful expression in his eyes. In fact, what he most wants to worship is Taiqing Laozi. If he can become a disciple of Taiqing Laozi, then the future does not need to be considered at all. With Taiqing Laozi around, can the future be worse? Have you not seen me? Master Xuandu, who was admitted to the sect of Laozi Taiqing, has the greatest strength among the three religions. Moreover, he holds a prestigious status and is the senior brother of the Xianmen sect. But at this moment, he looked at the large formation with a hesitant expression in his eyes. He knew that there was only one opportunity, and if he made a wrong choice, the dangers he had encountered over the years would be truly in vain. He had walked billions of miles, but it was truly a waste of time. As for Yuqing Yuanshi, it was his second choice, but looking at the large formation, he couldn't help but give up. His Hejiao is just a born spirit, how can he handle it? Moreover, he had just heard everyone say that 12 people had already broken through the formation. He knew in his heart that those 12 people must be the future 12 golden immortals, and after the Yuanshi Heavenly Lord collected the 12 golden immortals, he would not accept any more disciples. After all, Zhangjiao has always been the 12 golden immortals and has never taken disciples. He looked at the large formation arranged by Shangqing Tongtian, which emphasizes fate. As long as there is a master-disciple relationship, one can worship under his sect. At this moment, Chen Qing couldn't help but ponder deeply, after all, this choice will affect his life. He pondered for a long time, with a determined expression in his eyes and a decision already made in his heart. He decisively abandoned the large formation set up by Laozi Taiqing and Yuanshi Yuqing, and instead looked at the large formation set up by the leader of the Tongtian sect. After all, he knew that Taiqing Laozi had not taken in disciples in the Kunlun Mountains, and Yuqing Yuanshi had already taken in the 12 golden immortals. So why waste his opportunity? After all, there is only one opportunity, and he must firmly grasp it. After Chen Qing made a decision, he walked towards the large formation arranged by Shangqing Tongtian, ready to worship under his door. As for whether he has a master-disciple relationship with the Shangqing Tongtian, he is not sure, but since he has already arrived here, why not try it out? After all, what if there is a master-disciple relationship? At the foot of Kunlun Mountain, millions of people looked at Chen Qing and saw that his cultivation was just a cultivation of emptiness, not even a cultivation of immortality. They couldn't help but sneer in their eyes. P.S. The new book sets sail. Kneel down and beg everyone to cast some flowers, evaluate tickets, monthly tickets, and give rewards. Even a single flower, an evaluation ticket, 100 tips, or a monthly pass can do it. I hope everyone can greatly support me. Chapter 2. Apprentice to Heaven, External Disciple. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chen Qing ignored the gaze of outsiders and walked firmly towards the large formation arranged by Shangqing Tongtian. He has experienced this kind of vision countless times, and now he is accustomed to it. After all, his cultivation is indeed weak and cannot be compared to the others present. Chen Qing ignored it and stepped into the main formation. After entering the formation, he noticed the changes in the formation and began to sit cross-legged. Looking around, I began to ponder. Kunlun Mountain Peak, inside the Shangqing Palace. At this moment, Shangqing Tongtian, who was sitting high above, opened his eyes and looked at the large formation he had set up, with a hint of surprise in his eyes. He didn't expect that there would be a natural spirit entering the great formation, wanting to worship under his own sect and cultivate the way. Seeing this, he couldn't help but laugh. The movement of Shangqing Tongtian also caught the attention of Taiqing Laozi and Yuqing Yuanshi. At this time, there were only 3 people inside the Shangqing Palace, but outside the Shangqing Palace, there were over 100 people. These hundreds of people were all disciples of Yuqing Yuanshi and Shangqing Tongtian, with Shangqing Tongtian receiving the majority of them. Third brother, what surprised you so much? Upon hearing this, Shangqing Tongtian looked at Taiqing Laozi and slowly spoke up. Big brother, in the large formation I have arranged, one day the human race will enter the formation and want to worship under my sect and practice the Great Way. This is still the first postnatal creature who wants to worship under my door, but it surprised me a bit. Upon hearing this, Yuqing Yuanshi's face remained unchanged, but a hint of disdain appeared in his eyes. The living beings in the day after tomorrow also want to practice the sage's path, they really don't know the vastness of heaven and earth. Upon hearing this, Shangqing Tongtian ignored Yuqing Yuanshi and instead looked at the large formation, unable to help but start calculating. Suddenly, it was discovered that this person had a connection with oneself. Hiss. Unexpectedly, the human race after tomorrow still has a master-disciple relationship with me, which surprised me a bit. Upon hearing these words, Laozi Taiqing shook his head helplessly, then closed his eyes and went away to comprehend the heavenly way. He knew that since he was destined, according to his third brother's temperament, he would definitely accept him as his disciple. Yuqing Yuanshi looked at Tongtian and wanted to speak a few words, but upon second thought, he also remained silent and went to comprehend the heavenly way. At this moment, Shangqing Tongtian looked at the formation and his mind moved. He began to ask. Chen Qing was waiting quietly in the formation when a voice rang out. I am from the Upper Qing dynasty, and the teachings I have established are Jie. Since you want to join my sect, let me explain the meaning of this character. Upon hearing this, Chen Qing immediately stood up and respectfully bowed. To the Sage of Heaven, cut means to cut off, cut open, and cut off. The Sage of Tongtian saw that there was no door for all living beings in the vast and desolate world to seek the Tao. He cut off a thread of vitality for all living beings, and this thread of vitality opened up the door to practice, allowing all living beings to have the opportunity to practice. Chen Qing began to explain what he understood, including his understanding of the concept of interception in later generations, and began to explain it. In the Shangqing Palace, the leader of the Tongtian sect heard Chen Qing's words and couldn't help but show a hint of shock in his eyes. The teachings he established were just as Chen Qing had said, but at this time, he recognized Chen Qing. After Chen Qing finished speaking, he stopped speaking and patiently waited. Shangqing looked at Chen Qing from the sky, with a hint of appreciation in his eyes. You and I have a master-disciple relationship, but this relationship is somewhat shallow. If you join my sect, you can only become an outsider disciple. Upon hearing this, Chen Qing immediately bowed to the direction of Kunlun Mountain as a master disciple. Student Chen Qing, pay respects to the teacher. In the Shangqing Palace, Shangqing Tongtian heard this and a smile appeared on his lips. Although Chen Qing is just an acquired creature, according to what he just said, it can already be seen that his intelligence is not low. For the leader of the Tongtian sect, all living beings in the vast and desolate world can practice. As long as they have a master-disciple relationship with him, he will open up the door to practice and let them practice. As for where they can practice, it depends on their personal creation. He now accepts Chen Qing, and the same goes for him. The extent to which Chen Qing can cultivate in the future also depends on himself. Shangqing looked up at the formation from the sky, and with a movement of his mind, a ladder of heaven appeared. At the end of the ladder is the top of Kunlun Mountain. Climb the ladder and come to the top of Kunlun Mountain. Chen Qing heard this and looked at the ladder, his eyes couldn't help but show a joyful expression. He has endured so much hardship, faced so many crises, and walked so many paths over the years, but at this moment, he has gained something. He successfully worshipped under the door of a saint, and in the future, he will be blessed by the saint, but he doesn't need to worry about anything else. Moreover, there is a sage who preaches, believing that even if he is a postnatal being, he can still become an immortal and attain enlightenment in the future, wandering freely in the vast world. Chen Qing no longer hesitated, but directly climbed up the ladder step by step. At this moment, he felt somewhat fortunate. Fortunately, he had chosen Shangqing Tongtian. If he had chosen Taiqing Laozi or Yuqing Yuanshi, it was hard to say that he had already been rejected at this time. The ladder was long, but for him, it was not a problem at all. As he walked, he was firm and calm as he lifted his steps. He climbed step by step, walking on the ladder with calm and firm steps. P.S. The new book sets sail. Kneel down and beg everyone to cast some flowers, evaluate tickets, monthly tickets, and give rewards. Even a single flower, an evaluation ticket, 100 tips, or a monthly pass can do it. I hope everyone can greatly support me. Chapter 3. The Three Saints Preach, with an Understanding of Overcoming the Heavens. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chen Qing arrived at the end of the ladder and looked at the top of Kunlun Mountain, feeling angry and respectful in his heart. The top of Kunlun Mountain is the place where the three saints reside. In the vast world, there are countless creatures who yearn to come here. But now, he has come to this place. Moreover, he also became a disciple of the sage and became a disciple of the sage. Although he was a disciple of an outside sect, he was also a disciple of the sage. At the top of Kunlun Mountain, hundreds of people were looking at the sky ladder in unison. They knew that they were about to have another junior brother join, but they didn't know who this junior brother belonged to. When they saw Chen Qingji, there was a look of shock in their eyes. In their eyes, Chen Qing was just an acquired spirit, and his cultivation was still in the realm of refining emptiness, so they couldn't help but be amazed. Chen Qing arrived at the top of Kunlun Mountain and looked at the crowd, already realizing that these people had all been worshipped by the sage, including his senior brothers and sisters. Chen Qing politely bowed to everyone. My name is Chen Qing, and I have been worshipped by the Sage of Heaven. I have met all the senior brothers and sisters. Everyone saw that Chen Qing was so polite, so it was also a change of etiquette. Although some people look down on Chen Qing, they only hold it in their hearts and do not show it. After all, no one can say for sure the future achievements of being able to worship under the door of a saint. At this moment, a person walked out and looked at Chen Qing with a dignified expression. I am the eldest disciple of the Jiejiao sect, and my name is Duobao. Since you have already become a disciple of the teacher, let's stand over here. Upon hearing this, Chen Qing respectfully bowed to Duobao and then walked towards the direction he pointed out. Everyone returned to calmness once again and then began to practice. Upon seeing this, Chen Qing also began to meditate and regulate his breath, but he did not have any cultivation techniques and could only close his eyes to regulate his breath. He had tried to watch the sun, moon, mountains and rivers, the mountains, the earth, the growth of plants, and the cultivation of exotic beasts before, trying to create cultivation techniques, but all of them were unsuccessful. Nowadays, he can only close his eyes and regulate his breath, absorb innate spiritual energy, and slowly refine it. In the blink of an eye, 10 years have already passed. The apprenticeship is over, let's all retreat. A voice spread throughout the vast world and fell into the ears of all living beings. Everyone also heard this sound and opened their eyes. Please enter the Shangqing Palace. Everyone heard the sound and then lined up, walking towards the Shangqing Palace. Everyone walked into the Shangqing Palace and looked at the three people sitting high above, then respectfully performed a master-disciple salute. Greet Master Uncle, Teacher, Second Master Uncle, Teacher, Third Master Uncle. Shangqing glanced at everyone and then slowly spoke up. Now that you have joined the sect of the three of us and become disciples of the sages, you need to guard against arrogance and impatience in the future and cultivate diligently. The cultivation of the Tao does not lie in a day or night, but in a long period of time. Only by maintaining a firm Tao heart can one achieve success in practice. After saying these words, Shangqing glanced at the three of them and then spoke again. This time, the three of us have been preaching for 1,000 years each. How much you can comprehend depends on yourself. Upon hearing this, everyone bowed respectfully to the three saints and then sat cross-legged on the ground, listening attentively. The three saints glanced at everyone and saw that with a flick of their fingers, Yuqing Yuanshi and Shangqing Tongtian appeared with hundreds of shining lights. This is the Yuqing true scripture of my teachings and cultivation method, which is well understood by you. This is the upper pure scripture of the Dharma that I have taught and practiced. You are good students who can comprehend it. In everyone's minds, there is an additional method of cultivation, which belongs to their respective sections. Just as everyone was about to comprehend, Taiqing Laozi spoke up and explained the Tao. The sage preaches extraordinary things, but as soon as he opens his mouth, countless visions appear. The sky is in chaos, the earth is filled with golden lotus, and the Tao is full of the three pure palaces. The Tao sound transforms into auspicious beasts such as divine dragons, colorful phoenixes, and Qilin, rushing within the three pure palaces, roaring in mid-air and casting endless holy light. Behind Taizi Laozi appeared a huge pillar of light, inside which there were countless shining lights that kept flowing. Every ray of brilliance is the emergence of the power of the laws he comprehends. What Laozi Taiqing said, from easy to difficult, from the initial realm of qi refining, was explained in this way because of Chen Qing's presence. At the podium, everyone listened so intoxicated that they were completely engrossed in silence on the main road. As you have heard the sage explain the Great Way, with a rebellious understanding, you can comprehend the martial arts and the upper pure scriptures. At this moment, Chen Qing was overjoyed and had a rebellious understanding. However, it was too timely for him. At this point, he already knew that if he could not worship under the door of the sage and listen to the sage's explanation of the Great Way, then this supernatural understanding would not have been opened. And he, after listening to the sage's explanation of the Tao, has now opened up his extraordinary insight. In the vast expanse of heaven and earth, besides the importance of following one's footsteps, it is this understanding that values one's own understanding. To comprehend the Tao of heaven and earth is to value one's own understanding. Nowadays, with a rebellious understanding, even if one is an acquired being, it is not impossible to find a solution. In the future, if one transforms into an innate being, they can still attain enlightenment. At this moment, Chen Qing was very excited in his heart. After a moment of joy, he suppressed his excitement and began to calm down, carefully listening to the teachings of the Supreme Master Laozi. For him, this was an unparalleled opportunity, as the sage preached, how many creatures in the vast and desolate world dreamed of but could not seek it. P.S. The new book sets sail. Kneel down and beg everyone to cast some flowers, evaluate tickets, monthly tickets, and give rewards. Even a single flower, an evaluation ticket, 100 tips, or a monthly pass can do it. I hope everyone can greatly support me. Chapter 4. The Way of Earthly Immortals. The End of Shouyuan, that. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chen Qing listened attentively to the teachings of Taiqing Laozi, but his eyes showed a hint of contemplation. As Taiqing Laozi said, breaking through into the realm of earthly immortality, transforming into immortality, and not becoming a saint is in sight, leading to a significant increase in longevity. However, there will always be a day when longevity will come to an end. Only by achieving the golden immortal and picking the fruit of the eternal path can the longevity yuan be endless, but it will already be killed by people. Only by reaching the realm of the Great Luo-Golden Immortal can one live and see for a long time, break free from the river of fate, condense one's own path fruits, and achieve great freedom and freedom. At this moment, Chen Qing couldn't help but show a thoughtful expression on his face. In later generations, he also read countless novels about the wasteland. According to space.Taiqing, this method of cultivation is the low-end wasteland. Therefore, even if he cultivates to the Golden Immortal and Daluo Golden Immortal, he will have a chance to die in the future. This is something Chen Qing cannot tolerate. What he wants is for himself to enjoy eternal freedom, be equal to the Tao, and be the Tao, eternal, immortal, and immortal. As long as the Tao exists for a day, even if he dies, he can return from the source of the Tao. At this moment, he relied on the words and phrases he had seen in his later life, combined with his own supernatural understanding, and began to create a cultivation method. But he was not in a hurry to create his own cultivation method, but instead listened attentively to what space.Taiqing was saying, and then reflected on the Upper Qing scripture, beginning to comprehend. After all, his understanding of the Tao was still insufficient. At this time, while Taiqing Laozi was explaining the Tao, he was able to quickly comprehend the Upper Qing scriptures. Due to listening to the teachings of the sages, you have gained a deeper understanding of the upper pure scriptures, and a great way time passed unnoticed, and Taiqing Laozi stopped his explanation. Instead, Yuqing Yuanshi began to explain. For thousands of years, although Chen Qing had never practiced, as he listened to the teachings of the Supreme Master Laozi, his understanding of the Tao continued to deepen. Countless smallpox and golden lotus flowers constantly integrated into his body, but it enabled him to break through to the realm of immortality. But this heavenly realm is not what he wanted, it's just that he hasn't created the cultivation method he wants yet. Once he creates it, he will have to practice again and walk the path again. So 1,000 years have passed once again. At this moment, he had already developed his own understanding of the Tao under the influence of his extraordinary insight. At this moment, he combined his knowledge from later generations and began to conceive. In later generations, for the Great Luo Golden Immortal, that is the end of the Tao. The Luo Jin Xian. Equal to the Tao, eternal, immortal, and so on, they are all within the Tao. One thought generates chaos, eternal and eternal, even if one thought exists, it can return from the source of the Tao. As long as the Tao exists, it can never be erased. Its existence is indescribable and indescribable. Even if one sees it, they can only see the order of the origin of the Tao. Its existence transcends all time and space, transcends all tangible and intangible, above the immeasurable and uncountable, nothingness, transcends the origin of everything. In short, it is the Tao itself, the Tao exists, infinite and never extinguished. This is his plan for the past 2,000 years. After 2,000 years of planning and listening to the explanations of the two saints, he has already conceived the realm of Dalai Lama. As long as he reaches this level of cultivation, he can be directly comparable to the Tao ancestor of this world, no, even transcending the Tao ancestor, because he is the Tao, and the Tao is him. However, the founder of Taoism only combined his body with the Tao, but he did not cultivate to the level where he is the Tao. In his conception, further up, there is no realm, and there are no so-called quasi-saints, mixed elemental golden immortals, or saints. The Luo Golden Immortal is the strongest. The Luo Jin Xian is the end of the Tao. Now, he has already conceived it, but how to cultivate it is somewhat difficult. After all, this realm is already transcending all time and space, surpassing all tangible and intangible, transcending the source of everything, and is itself the Tao. Chen Qing fell into contemplation and began to quietly contemplate. He was pondering how to practice, time and space, tangible and intangible. He pondered for a long time and had already gained some enlightenment. If one wants to practice this method, it is to cultivate the physical body in the elemental spirit together, and transform together. Only in this way can one achieve success. At this moment, Chen Qing's eyes lit up. He thought of the universe, the Milky Way, the sun, the moon, the mountains, and rivers. Combined with what Taiqing Laozi and Yuqing Yuanshi had said, he already had an eye for the cultivation of earthly immortals. To achieve the realm of earthly immortals, one must open up a galaxy of stars, condense one's own realm, and attain longevity in heaven and earth. Moreover, one must be independent of time and space, and transform one's physical body and spirit together, sublimating for eternity. Time alone proves me, with nowhere else to go. With my own strength, I shake the power of heaven and earth, condense my own Tao body, and enter the dimension of time and space. Even if my true body falls and exists, I can return. After Chen Qing came up with the idea, his eyes lit up. This is the cultivation method he created, which was created according to his own understanding of the myth of the Great Luo.When Immortal. Chen Qing named it the mythical cultivation method. As for this realm, it has already been created by the cultivation method of the Earth Immortal realm, but it has not yet been practiced. At this moment, he couldn't help but sigh that if it weren't for the existence of supernatural intelligence, he would never have been able to create this method. Now, with this method, as long as one opens up the Milky Way, condenses one's own realm, and obtains longevity in heaven and earth, it is equivalent to stepping into the realm of earthly immortals. Moreover, this realm of earthly immortals is comparable to the realm of golden immortals mentioned by the three saints. At this moment, Chen Qing felt a longing in his heart. He knew that as long as he practiced this method, he would definitely succeed in the future. P.S. The new book sets sail. Kneel down and beg everyone to cast some flowers, evaluate tickets, monthly tickets, and give rewards. Even a single flower, an evaluation ticket, 100 tips, or a monthly pass can do it. I hope everyone can greatly support me. Chapter 5. 3 clear side eyes, phenomena appear. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. At this time, Chen Qing had already created the method of practicing in the realm of earthly immortals. Now, he only needs to practice to verify whether he can practice. I saw his mind move and his body emit a huge suction. Countless smallpox and golden lotus were sucked into his body and slowly refined by him. At this moment, he is preparing to open up the Milky Way, taking himself as the main body in opening up the Milky Way. As countless smallpox and golden lotus entered the body and were constantly refined by Chen Qing was also preparing to wait for his own magic to reach a critical point before directly opening up the Milky Way. At this moment, he didn't have to worry about the problem of losing his power. In these 3 pure palaces, there were countless smallpox and golden lotus flowers, all of which were pure innate spiritual powers that could be used for his cultivation. As the magic in his body continued to condense, at this moment, Chen Qing no longer hesitated and began to open up the Milky Way. As he opened up a Milky Way within his body, he could see a burst of suction emanating from his body, bringing together all the smallpox and golden lotus in the Shangqing palace. This incident directly caused Taiqing Laozi, Yuqing Yuanshi, and Shangqing Tongtian to open their eyes, and then all 3 of them looked in the direction where Chen Qing was. The 3 of them frowned as they saw Chen Qing suddenly absorb the smallpox and golden lotus in the Shangqing palace. Note that even if the 10 Great Luo.When Immortals absorb the smallpox and golden lotus in these 3 Qing palaces together, they cannot be completely absorbed. However, at this time, they are all absorbed by Chen Qing alone. The 3 of them exchanged a glance at each other, and then their thoughts moved. Countless smallpox and golden lotus flowers emerged again. But when these smallpox and golden lotus bloomed, they were once again pulled by Chen Qing and absorbed into his body. At this moment, Shangqing's eyes were already filled with surprise. They were puzzled as to what kind of method Chen Qing was practicing, absorbing so many smallpox and golden lotus flowers into his body. But the 3 of them did not hesitate, but continued to use their divine powers to break through the void in front of them, attracting endless chaotic energy and transforming it into pure innate spiritual energy for him to absorb. After all, at this moment, there are not only Chen Qing, but also other disciples present. At this point it was already time for Shangqing Tongtian to explain the main road, while observing Chen Qing. After all, Chen Qing is his disciple. Although he is an outsider, he is also a disciple. If he makes mistakes in his practice, he can even correct them. Chen Qing received the endless help of innate spiritual energy, and at this moment, a star river had already been opened up in his body. He opened up the Milky Way with himself, but at this moment, he found himself with endless strength. Even those hundreds of thousands of feet of high mountains, if he were to pull them up, he could easily accomplish it. At this moment, he only hates the heavens and the earth, otherwise, he feels like he can even reach heaven and earth. In fact, all of this is just an illusion that he has just broken through the realm. With Chen Qing's breakthrough, he began to condense his own realm, constantly compressing, solidifying, compressing again, solidifying until he could no longer compress. As he moved, the forces of time and space around him were constantly repelled, and an inexplicable force appeared in his body, isolating the forces of time and space. Subsequently, a Milky Way appeared, pressing horizontally above Chen Qing's head. This incident caused constant frowning from Taiqing Laozi, Yuqing Yuanshi, and Shangqing Tongtian. It should be noted that in their cognition, those who are able to exclude the power of time and space from the body and are independent of their own time and space must at least reach the Great Luo.When Immortal. Only the Great Luo.When Immortal can do this. After all, upon arriving at the Great Luo.When Immortal, one can break free from the river of fate and achieve true spiritual unity, which can exclude time and space from the body. But at this moment, they looked at Chen Qing, but they were puzzled. In their eyes, Chen Qing was clearly in the realm of the Earth Immortal, and instead of ascending, his realm descended. He was once a heavenly immortal, but now he is an Earth Immortal. The various things that could appear surprised the three of them, because they were independent of time and space, which at least required the Luo Jin Xian to achieve. Therefore, they were unable to determine Chen Qing's realm for a moment. In the eyes of the three of them, they could only see a Dao fruit condensed in Chen Qing's body at this moment. With the appearance of the Dao fruit, the river of destiny was revealed. Then, the true spirit belonging to Chen Qing flew out directly and integrated into the Dao fruit. This incident once again shocked the three of them, as they gathered the Dao fruit and the true spirit merged into it, which was only present in the realm of the Dalai Lama. At this moment, in the eyes of the three of them, Chen Qing was still in the realm of earthly immortality. The three of them looked at each other in confusion, then shook their heads without delving deeper. At this moment, Chen Qing condensed his own realm and condensed his own Dao fruit. The Dao fruit directly merged with his true spirit, and from then on, his true spirit was no longer in the river of fate, and he directly obtained eternal life, living together with heaven and earth. Chen Qing did not know all of this. At this moment, he only knew that he needed to transform his physical body and spiritual essence. Just because he is constantly condensing the Milky Way, his physical body can no longer bear the power of the Milky Way, and his own spirit cannot drive the Milky Way. This is something Chen Qing cannot accept. After all, he has already cultivated into his own mythological cultivation method. If he cannot drive it, how will he continue to cultivate in the future? Nowadays, he can only transform himself, sublimate his physical body in spiritual essence, and reach the state of time's only self-certification. P.S. The new book sets sail. Kneel down and beg everyone to cast some flowers, evaluate tickets, monthly tickets, and give rewards. Even a single flower, an evaluation ticket, 100 tips, or a monthly pass can do it. I hope everyone can greatly support me. Chapter 6. Transformation completed. Is this a earthly immortal? You are listening at novelfull.audio. At this moment, Chen Qing made a decision to undergo transformation, with his physical body undergoing transformation and his spiritual essence undergoing transformation. Sublimation for eternity, the only one for eternity. Time is my only proof, there is no other. One's own power moves the power of heaven and earth. But he has not yet figured out how to proceed with the transformation of the physical body and the transformation of the spiritual essence. Everything at this moment was just created by him. Although the Milky Way has been opened up, the condensation of one's own realm has been completed, the fruit of one's own path has been condensed, and true spirits have been integrated into it, achieving eternal life in heaven and earth. However, there is some confusion about the transformation of the physical body and the spiritual essence. At this moment, he couldn't help but stop pondering and listened attentively to the explanation from Shangqing Tongtian. The explanation of the Shangqing Tongtian is biased towards the Shangqing scripture. After all, the Shangqing scripture was created by him, and during the explanation, the cultivation of the Shangqing scripture is more thorough. Chen Qing couldn't help but be entranced by this. He listened to the explanation of the Great Way by Shangqing Tongtian and began to comprehend it by combining it with the Shangqing scriptures. Due to listening to the teachings of the sages, you have mastered the upper pure scripture, and your understanding of the Tao is even more profound. Unconsciously, hundreds of years have passed, and with the help of his rebellious understanding, Chen Qing has now mastered the Shangqing scripture. At this moment, in his eyes, there was no secret left of the Shangqing scripture, and he had already understood everything. Moreover, under the guidance of the Heavenly Master and with his mastery of the upper pure scriptures, he has already developed thoughts on the transformation of the physical body and the primordial spirit. At this time, although he was an acquired body and a living being, the transformation of his physical body and the transformation of his spiritual essence did not distinguish between acquired and innate, but only involved the transition between himself and time and space. But he is already independent of time and space, and there is no need to worry about the time and space within the vast world. He is independent. At this moment, he no longer hesitated at the thought of this. Transforming oneself requires a large amount of innate spiritual energy. His transformation of the physical body is to make every inch of his body filled with the power of time and space, so that he can fully grasp the galaxy he has opened up. With this in mind, Chen Qing no longer hesitated, but began to undergo transformation. As Chen Qing made a decision, a huge suction emanated from his body, sweeping away all the smallpox and golden lotus in the Sanqing palace and directly inhaling them into his body. As these smallpox and golden lotus were sucked into his body, they filled every inch of flesh and every cell. Not only that, the long river of time and space appeared directly and descended within the Sanqing palace. At this moment, Tai Qing Laozi, Yuqing Yuanshi, and Shangqing Tongtian opened their eyes and looked at the long river of time and space, unable to help but show a look of shock. The long river of time and space, that's the long river of time and space. Unexpectedly, Chen Qing just broke through his own realm and led to the long river of time and space. Note that they only came into contact with the long river of time and space after breaking through the quasi-holy realm themselves. They, at that time, could only observe, but could not borrow the power of time and space. Nowadays, with the three becoming saints, it is already possible to borrow some of the power of the long river of time and space, and can also be summoned like Chen Qing, but don't forget what realm Chen Qing is. At this moment, the three of them were very shocked. Chen Qing seemed to be in the realm of Earth Immortals, but at this moment, they couldn't help but wonder, is this really the realm of Earth Immortals? The realm of Earthly Immortals, where true spirits merge into the Tao fruit. Is the realm of Earthly Immortals independent of time and space? Earth Immortal realm, summoning the river of time and space. The three of them looked at each other in confusion, but at this moment, it was not easy for them to inquire because Chen Qing was still breaking through his own realm. And, the three of them are saints, Chen Qing's mentors, and Chen Qing's teachers. How could they pull their faces down and ask these questions? In the eyes of the three, they could only see the endless power of time and space integrated into Chen Qing's body, helping him cultivate. In the Sanqing Palace, fortunately, the three of them have just broken through the void and transformed the endless power of chaos into pure innate spiritual energy, which has kept the innate spiritual energy in the palace in an extremely rich state. As Chen Qing began to transform, his body seemed like an bottomless pit, constantly devouring every inch of flesh and every cell. What he devours is not only innate spiritual energy, but also the endless power of time and space. At this moment, Shangqing Tongtian didn't even preach, and instead condensed a clone to preach on his behalf. He stared directly at Chen Qing, as if trying to see through him. As time passed, Chen Qing's physical body and spiritual essence underwent transformation. I saw his original body shatter directly, revealing his transformed body. But the old body automatically shatters, turning into nothingness and flowing into endless time and space. Taiqing Laozi, Yuqing Yuanshi, and Shangqing Tongtian looked at Chen Qing's new body, their eyes full of shock. Because at this moment, Chen Qing's body contained countless forces of time and space, as if they were about to burst out. Moreover, not only that, it also harbors an extremely powerful force within its body, which is comparable to that of the Great Luo.When Immortal. Taiqing Laozi, Yuqing Yuanshi, and Shangqing Tongtian looked at each other, then showed a faint expression. The three of them only thought that Chen Qing had already broken into the realm of the Great Luo.When Immortal, rather than the realm of the Earth Immortal that he had revealed. The three of them no longer paid attention to Chen Qing, but exchanged a glance at each other, then closed their eyes again and began to comprehend the heavenly way. Shangqing Tongtian dispersed his clone and began to explain the Tao again. They thought that Chen Qing had cultivated to the level of the Great Luo.When Immortal. Although he had broken through to the level of the Great Luo.When Immortal from practicing emptiness until now, they only thought that Chen Qing had a high level of intelligence. After listening to their explanation of the Tao, he gained some understanding and directly broke into the realm of the Great Luo.When Immortal. After all, the three of them are saints, and the path they explain is the path of saints. Now, after thousands of years, none of the disciples they have received have broken through the realm and achieved cultivation. Although Chen Qing's breakthrough cultivation may seem terrifying, the three of them can still accept it. If Chen Qing knew, he would directly tell the three of them that I am truly in the realm of the Earth Immortal and have not reached the realm of the Great Luo.When Immortal. After all, what he created was a unique mythological practice of Dalai Lama, which was completely different from what the three saints had taught. At this moment, Chen Qing has completed his own transformation and achieved the proof that time is only me, and his own power can move the power of heaven and earth. Now, all we need to do is condense our Tao body and wait for it to enter the dimension of time and space. But at this moment, Chen Qing was not in a hurry because he realized that he could already mobilize the star river he had opened up. P.S. The new book sets sail. Kneel down and beg everyone to cast some flowers, evaluate tickets, monthly tickets, and give rewards. Even a single flower, an evaluation ticket, 100 tips, or a monthly pass can do it. I hope everyone can greatly support me. Chapter 7, from the year 3000 to the end of the sermon. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Time flies like a white horse, and in the blink of an eye, the period of 3,000 years has already arrived. 3,000 years have passed in a blink of an eye, and then everyone is immersed in the road and quietly passes away. On this day, Shangqing Tongtian stopped explaining the main road and looked at the people who were addicted to it. He smiled and shook his head, and when he looked at Chen Qing, his eyes showed satisfaction. Chen Qing's performance was impressive enough, as he immediately possessed a strength comparable to that of the Great Luo.When Immortal upon hearing that he had lived for 3,000 years. However, he was extremely satisfied. Moreover, the urban area is extremely proficient in the understanding of the meaning of truncation and the teaching of truncation they have established. If it weren't for their lack of sufficient connection with themselves, they would have wanted to accept them as their own disciples. Unfortunately, although he adheres to the belief that everything has a glimmer of vitality and can learn the Tao, he also places great importance on the relationship between master and disciple. After all, personally passing down disciples is not only a matter of status, but also a matter of one's own luck. According to the Tianji display, he only has 4 personally transmitted disciples. In addition, when he made his decision to intercept the teachings, he did not have the opportunity to suppress the pressure of the Jiejiao town, but he would not accept any more personally transmitted disciples. After all, The aura of a disciple passed down from birth is the same as his own aura. Not only that, but there is also causality. If he accepts Chen Qing as a disciple passed down from birth, he will bear a share of Chen Qing's karma in the future, no matter what the consequences may be. Between the disciples and teachers who have passed down their lineage, their luck is intertwined and their cause and effect are connected. Generally, there is a deep fate, otherwise, it is not easy to accept the disciples who have passed down their lineage. As the Heavenly Master no longer preaches, all visions disappear and disappear. The divine dragon disappeared, the colorful phoenix receded, the Qilin no longer appeared, and the smallpox and golden lotus also dissipated, transforming into pure innate spiritual energy. But inside the Shangqing palace, it is still shrouded in Dao Yun. When Chen Qing stopped explaining the Tao in the Upper Qing dynasty, he had already noticed it, but he did not open his eyes. Instead, he condensed his own galaxy and condensed it once again. With the transformation of his physical body and spiritual essence, the number of stars he can carry increases once again. In such a situation, how could he not condense again? Moreover, the innate spiritual energy in the Shangqing palace is incredibly pure, and can be directly transformed into the power of the Milky Way without the need for further refinement. How could he miss such a good opportunity? Note that if you miss this good opportunity, you will have to wait until the next time, I don't know what year and month it will be. Chen Qing is not only like this, he is refining both the Milky Way and the Tao body, preparing to take this opportunity to directly condense his own Tao body. At that time, he can let his own Tao body enter the dimension of time and space. Even if his true body dies, as long as his Tao body is present, he can return again. As Chen Qing condensed the Milky Way and the Tao, time slowly passed. 100 years pass in a blink of an eye, and in the vast world, time is often the least valuable. Great powers often spend thousands of years in seclusion, and even if they do, they spend thousands of years in seclusion. 100 years have passed, and everyone who is silent on the road has awakened. After the last person woke up, everyone stood up and respectfully bowed to the three saints as a master disciple. Thank you, Master, Teacher, Second Master, and Teacher, Third Master, for explaining the Tao. Upon hearing this, the three saints nodded in satisfaction and looked at the crowd. Seeing that everyone had achieved a breakthrough in their realm, they couldn't help but show a satisfied look. Subsequently, the three saints looked at the crowd and slowly spoke up. You have heard the Tao, but you may have some doubts. At this moment, you can raise them, and we can also provide you with answers. Upon hearing this, everyone raised their own questions. The three saints heard everyone's doubts and began to answer them and guide them through the maze. Chen Qing listened to these questions and answers, but he didn't take them seriously, just because he understood these questions. Chen Qing no longer paid attention, but began to concentrate on absorbing the spiritual energy in his Shangqing palace, condensing his own star river and Tao body. So, 100 years later, it was Chen Qing. Chen Qing looked at the three saints and immediately asked the doubts in his heart. Master Uncle, Second Master Uncle, Teacher, what is the Tao and how can we truly understand its true meaning? Tai Qing Laozi, Yuqing Yuanshi, and Shangqing Tongtian were all somewhat surprised when they heard this. What they didn't expect was that Chen Qing would ask this question. The Tao is the rule of all things operation. The Tao exists among all things, and it is everywhere. As long as you understand it with your heart, you can clearly understand what the Tao is. The operation of heaven and earth is for the Tao, the sun, moon, and stars are for the Tao, and the grass, trees, mountains, and rivers are for the Tao. The Tao exists everywhere and is omnipresent. The true meaning of the Tao requires you to comprehend on your own, to comprehend the vast world, to comprehend the sun, moon, stars, and to comprehend the plants, trees, mountains, and rivers. The Tao follows nature, and once you have some understanding, you will understand what the Tao is and what its true meaning is. Laozi Taiqing recounted the Great Road, and after he finished speaking, everyone in the Sanqing Palace was shrouded in mist. However, Yuqing Yuanshi and Shangqing Tongtian had no words, but nodded in agreement. Upon hearing this, Chen Qing nodded and bowed again to the three saints before sitting down. Upon seeing this, the three saints immediately declared the end of their preaching. This sermon is over. Let's go down and practice in seclusion, so that we can fully understand what we are talking about. After you leave, you can choose a palace next to you to practice. After saying these words, the three saints closed their eyes and went away to comprehend the heavenly way. When everyone saw this, they all stood up and bowed respectfully to the three saints before orderly exiting the Sanqing Palace. After leaving the Sanqing Palace, everyone looked at each other and walked towards the nearby palace. At this moment, everyone was eager to go to seclusion. They had just heard the three saints explain the Tao, and their doubts had been answered. However, they were preparing to seclude and further enhance their strength, turning the insights gained from listening to the Tao into their own heritage. Chen Qing glanced at the crowd and saw that they were all heading towards the palace. He also followed behind them, heading towards the palace, preparing to find a palace and continue to practice his martial arts in seclusion. P.S. The new book sets sail. Kneel down and beg everyone to cast some flowers, evaluate tickets, monthly tickets, and give rewards. Even a single flower, an evaluation ticket, 100 tips, or a monthly pass can do it. I hope everyone can greatly support me. Chapter 8. Separation of the Three Cleanings and the Path of the Tao. Seeking Freshness. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chen Qing casually selected a relatively quiet palace among the many palaces, and then began to close down. He only needs to cultivate his own Tao body now to truly break through and become the realm of earthly immortals. The first step in his creation of the mythical Luo-Golden Immortal cultivation method is to be able to open up the Milky Way, condense one's own realm, obtain longevity in heaven and earth, have independent time and space, elevate and transform the physical body in elemental spirit, and use one's own power to move the power of heaven and earth, leading the Tao body into the dimension of time and space. Now, all the previous ones have been completed, except for the final condensed Tao body, which has entered the dimension of time and space. In this way, he no longer needs to worry about his own death, because even if his true body dies, his Tao body is still in the dimension of time and space and can return again. Unless his true body dies and his Tao body is also erased by someone, then he is truly dead. However, according to his understanding, as Taiqing Laozi, Yuqing Yuanshi, and Shangqing Tongtian said, the Earth Immortals also have a day when their lifespan reaches its end. That will destroy his spiritual body, unless it is a quasi-holy realm. After all, the quasi-holy realm has already begun to come into contact with time and space, the realm of the Great Luo-Golden Immortal, and one's true spirit has jumped out of the river of time. At this moment, he couldn't help but start to compare, because he also didn't know his current strength, which, when converted to the current vast world, was what kind of strength it was. Nowadays, he has opened up the Milky Way and condensed his own Tao fruit, and the true spirit has integrated into the Tao fruit, resulting in longevity in heaven and earth. He is like the Great Luo-Golden Immortal in this vast and desolate world. The Luo Jin Xian is like this, transcending the river of time and living together with heaven and earth. Now that he is the same as the Great Luo-Golden Immortal, does that mean that his self-created cultivation method, the Earth Immortal realm, is quite the Great Luo-Golden Immortal realm? At this moment, Chen Qing was lost in thought, pondering over it. After pondering for a while, it was not the same. After all, he had never seen how strong the Great Luo-Golden Immortal was, and fortunately, he no longer daydreamed, but directly closed down and condensed his own Taoist body. So, time slowly passed by, and in the blink of an eye, it was already 1,000 years of time that had passed. For thousands of years, Chen Qing has been refining his own Taoist body, but on the Kunlun Mountains, there is a vast expanse of smoke and miasma. Due to the fact that many disciples of the intercepted sect were born into the demon race, they naturally enjoyed eating flesh and blood. They hunted and killed exotic and spiritual beasts everywhere in the Kunlun Mountains, causing the original Kunlun Mountains to become a chaotic mess. At first, the disciples of the teachings were able to tolerate it, but after multiple attempts, conflicts began to arise between the two. After the conflict between the two sides, there were many people who intercepted the teachings, but Guangqingzi and others suffered from the shortage of people, so they no longer paid much attention to the people who intercepted the teachings. But as time passed, the conflict between the two sides became increasingly serious, until they reached a point of incompatibility between water and fire. The disciples of elucidation and interception, and even when it comes to fighting methods, there is a fight between the two sides. Upon seeing this, Yuqing originally intended to take action to protect his disciple, but due to the face of Shangqing Tongtian, he only reprimanded both sides a few words and ignored them. Until this day, Yuqing couldn't bear it anymore and directly took action to kill a disciple of the Jiejiao sect, only because he actually killed Yuqing's favorite exotic beast. Yuqing no longer tolerated it and directly killed the disciple who had intercepted the teachings on the spot, which directly triggered a conflict between him and Shangqing Tongtian for many years. At this moment, both sides no longer held back and erupted into a big argument. Taiqing Laozi looked at all of this and remained silent. He knew deeply that from the day both sides established the Great Church, there was an inevitable conflict between them, just a matter of time. Nowadays, this contradiction has directly erupted, but it has become an inevitable contradiction. Laozi Taiqing sighed helplessly as he looked at Yuqing and Shangqing Tongtian. Sigh. It's okay, it's okay. Kunlun Mountain will be given to the two of you, and as brothers, we will go to the wasteland to search for a new dojo. In the future, we will live in the new dojo. After saying these words, Laozi Taiqing glanced at the two of them and immediately stood up and left. Yuqing and Shangqing Tongtian looked at the departing Taiqing Laozi with a hint of sadness in their eyes. Second brother, since you are so intolerant of the disciples I have received, I will go to the wasteland like my elder brother to search for a dojo. Let's leave Kunlun Mountain with second brother. After Shangqing Tongtian finished speaking, he also stood up and left, taking a group of disciples to the Honghuang Heaven and Earth to search for a new dojo. From this moment on, Taiqing Laozi, Yuqing and Shangqing Tongtian were truly separated. But Chen Qing was unaware of this matter, as he was still practicing in seclusion. He has now reached the point of breakthrough and will not pay any attention to the outside world. I saw a fruit emerge from around him, which was nothing else but the Tao fruit he had condensed. At this moment, the Milky Way he opened up had endless magical power flowing out towards the Tao fruit. As the magic continued to flow in, the Tao fruit began to break apart and slowly coalesce into a human form. This figure is no different from Chen Qing, both in terms of qi and appearance. This is the Tao body condensed by Chen Qing. However, the Tao body at this time is somewhat illusory, but it needs to be solidified. Once it is solidified, it can enter the dimension of time and space. In this way, he is like having an immortal body. As long as the Tao body that exists in the dimension of time and space does not die, even if his true body dies unexpectedly, he does not need to worry about his own life. He can rely on the power of the Tao body to return to the vast world. At this moment, Chen Qing looked at the body with a smile in his eyes, and then began to continue practicing, solidifying the body. P.S. The new book sets sail. Kneel down and beg everyone to cast some flowers, evaluate tickets, monthly tickets, and give rewards. Even a single flower, an evaluation ticket, 100 tips, or a monthly pass can do it. I hope everyone can greatly support me. Chapter 9. The Three Cleanliness of the Tao Field, Entering Time and Space with the Tao Body. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Kunlun Mountain Peak, inside the Sanqing Palace. Yuqing looked at the two cattails beside him, with a hint of sadness in his eyes. He stood up and walked out towards the Sanqing Palace. He knew that this day would come sooner or later, it was just a matter of sooner or later. All of this starts with the great religion established by him and Tongtian. The sect he established is preaching, advocating for following the principles of heaven and explaining the way of heaven. The leader of the Tongtian sect, on the other hand, is to establish a teaching method that emphasizes cutting off a thread of vitality and seeking the great way for all beings. From here on, their path has already been determined, and elucidation and interception are two opposing sides. Yuqing Yuanshi walked out of the Shangqing palace. Outside the Shangqing palace, a group of preaching disciples saw him and respectfully bowed. Yuqing Yuanshi just glanced at the crowd and then continued walking towards the front. He arrived at the edge of Kunlun Mountain and gazed into the distant sky, with a look of memories in his eyes. Within the vast expanse of heaven and earth, the leader of the Shangqing Tongtian sect felt a sense in his heart and brought his disciples to the land of the East China Sea. He looked towards the endless East China Sea, but felt a sense in his heart. His dojo was located on this endless East China Sea. Shangqing Tongtian glanced at the disciples, then wrapped his magic around them and headed directly towards the place of induction. After he arrived, there was a look of surprise in his eyes. I saw an island that was extremely large, stretching hundreds of thousands of miles and resembling a golden turtle. On the island, there are lush green mountains, rippling blue waves, rugged rocks, and rich spiritual energy. The Earth's atmosphere rises, with auspicious clouds enveloping it. On the island, strange beasts are galloping, and strange flowers and plants are everywhere. Shangqing Tongtian looked at the island and felt a sense in his heart, so he spoke loudly. I, Shangqing Tongtian, am currently at the Bio Palace of the Zhongli Daochang on Jiejiao Island in the East China Sea. In the future, I will be named Shangqing Tongtian sect leader. I will use the name Tongtian sect leader in the future. The voice of the heavenly master, through the propagation of the heavenly Tao, falls into every living creature in the vast and desolate world, causing countless creatures in the vast and desolate world to look towards the East China Sea. In the Kunlun Mountains, Yuqing Yuanshi heard this and couldn't help but frown. Then, he also spoke up. I, Yuqing Yuanshi, established a Taoist temple called Yushu Palace in the Kunlun Mountains, which will later be named Yuqing Yuanshi Tianzuan. After Yuqing Yuanshi finished speaking, he turned around and looked at Shangqing Palace. He saw a thought in his heart, and the three big characters of Shangqing Palace changed into Yushu Palace. In the nameless mountains, upon hearing these words, Laozi-Taiqing shook his head helplessly and then spoke slowly. I, Laozi-Taiqing, have erected the 8 scenic temples of Daochang on Shouyuan Mountain. After Taiqing Laozi finished speaking these words, he stopped speaking. Countless creatures in the wasteland heard these words and looked sideways. In the western land, in the mountains of Sumeru. Upon hearing these words, the sage of Jiejiao and the sage of Zhuandi smiled in their eyes. Senior brother, it seems that Shangqing has split up. In this way, my senior brother's opportunity has come. Shangqing did not separate their families, and the grand trend of the vast world was always controlled by the three of them. Now that Shangqing is separated, there is a way out for the future of Western religion. After the Saint Zhuandi finished speaking, he looked towards the eastern land with a look of contemplation in his eyes. Upon hearing this, the sage nodded, but he didn't say much. In the vast and desolate heavenly realm, a group of high-level officials from the demon clan, including Emperor Jun, Eastern Emperor Tai, Fuxi, Kuanpeng, and Bei's, were discussing matters. However, upon hearing these words, a puzzled expression appeared. The separation of Shangqing's family is not a big deal for our demon tribe, but it is also crucial. Now that Shangqing has set up their own dojo, our demon tribe cannot help but go. After Emperor Jun finished speaking, he began to ponder and then arranged for Fuxi, Kuanpeng, and Bai Zhe to each go to the location of Shangqing to congratulate them on setting up the dojo. In the ancestral witch hall of the Wu clan, the 12 ancestral witches heard that Shangqing was separated, but they did not have too many thoughts. They regarded themselves as descendants of Pangu, but they were not fond of Shangqing and his 3 companions. At this time, they still focused more on the demon clan. However, what should be congratulated is to be sent forward. As the elder brother of everyone, Emperor Jiang began to arrange and sent 3 ancestral witches to the 3 people's dojo to congratulate Shangqing on establishing their own dojo. On the vast expanse of heaven and earth, countless great supernatural beings were somewhat shocked upon hearing these words, but after being shocked, they began to prepare gifts and went to congratulate the 3 of them on their independence from the dojo. What about Chen Qing? However, he was unaware of these things. At this moment, he had already condensed his Tao body completely, attempting to enter the dimension of time and space. In front of his Tao body, there appeared a space-time black hole, inside which there were endless space-time storms. Dao Shen stepped into it step by step and was not afraid of these temporal and spatial storms. The Tao body stepped into the dimension of time and space, looked around, and then stepped out, stabilizing the surrounding temporal and spatial storms. As the spatio-temporal storm stabilizes, the Tao body sits directly within the dimensions of time and space. Seeing this, Chen Qing's eyes showed a hint of relief. Now, his path has entered the dimension of time and space, and he has also reached the peak of the realm of Earthly Immortals. He has successfully practiced the method he created in the realm of Earthly Immortals. Open up the Milky Way, condense one's own realm and form the Tao fruit. The Tao fruit blends with the true spirit, resulting in eternal life and longevity in heaven and earth. One's own time and space are independent, and the physical body and spiritual essence undergo transformation, achieving the unity of time and self. One's own power can move the power of heaven and earth, and the Tao body enters the dimension of time and space. In this way, it is necessary to create the method for the next stage of cultivation, but Chen Qing has not yet conceived the next stage. Chen Qing looked ahead with a pensive expression in his eyes, but after pondering for a while, he shook his head helplessly and stopped pondering. He began to absorb endless innate spiritual energy and restore the magic within the star river in his body. However, as he had just condensed his Tao body, he consumed a lot of star river magic. P.S. The new book sets sail. Kneel down and beg everyone to cast some flowers, evaluate tickets, monthly tickets, and give rewards. Even a single flower, an evaluation ticket, 100 tips, or a monthly pass can do it. I hope everyone can greatly support me. Chapter 10. Don't pretend to understand, bid farewell to Kunlun and head towards the East China Sea. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The golden crow falls in the west, the moon rabbit rises in the east, and time passes by. Unconsciously, 100 years have already passed. On the top of Kunlun Mountain, the palace undulates continuously, and the Yushu Palace is located within the main hall. Yuanshi Tianzuan glanced at Chen Qing's direction and saw that his innate spiritual energy had returned to calmness, so he knew he was about to leave the level. Yuanshi Tianzuan did not drive Chen Qing down the mountain. Although Shangqing had already separated, Chen Qing had been in seclusion and was unaware of the separation. Moreover, he saw Chen Qing's performance during the 3 preaching sessions and recognized his cultivation. Although Chen Qing only displayed the realm of Earth Immortal, the magical power hidden in his body no longer belongs to the Great Luo.When Immortal. Yuanshi Tianzuan withdrew his gaze and then continued to comprehend the heavenly way. Chen Qing opened his eyes and looked at the palace, then withdrew his gaze. He took a light breath and began speaking to himself. Who? After thousands of years of seclusion, I have finally achieved my goal, condensed my spiritual body, and entered the dimension of time and space. From then on, as long as I don't provoke those great masters and saints, at least for now, my life doesn't need to worry anymore. The Milky Way is condensed, and the transformation of the physical body in elemental spirit is completed, but it can now pass the level. Chen Qing stood up and walked out towards the main gate, withdrawing the original formation. When he opened the gate, he looked at the empty top of Kunlun Mountain and walked straight out towards the front. Chen Qing walked on the mountaintop of Kunlun, with a hint of surprise in his eyes. If he remembers correctly, there were over 100 people when he listened to the sermon, but at this moment, he was walking on the top of Kunlun Mountain, but he didn't meet anyone, which made him a little surprised and couldn't help but ponder. After pondering for a moment, Chen Qing looked at the original Shangqing palace. When he looked at the plaque, he couldn't help but be stunned. He saw that the 3 big characters of the original Shangqing palace disappeared and were replaced by the 3 big characters of the Yushu palace. Chen Qing looked at these 3 big characters with a hint of doubt in his eyes. Looking towards other palaces, he did not find the Shangqing palace. At this moment, he remembered what had happened in later generations, and it was already clear that the Shangqing palace had transformed into the Yushu palace, probably due to the separation of the Shangqing palace. Chen Qing couldn't help but feel a little relieved when he thought of this. The separation of Shangqing's family was not a big deal for him, after all, it was a predetermined thing. As his strength grew stronger, he also gained a unique understanding of the Tao of heaven and earth. He glanced at Kunlun Mountain and knew that with its geographical location, it was difficult to carry the 3 saints. Therefore, it was inevitable for the 3 cleans to separate their families. After some consideration, Chen Qing decided to go and pay his respects to Yuqing Yuanshi first. After all, he was his second senior uncle. If he didn't go and pay his respects, it would be impolite. Moreover, what my second senior uncle values the most is etiquette. If I leave hastily, it is unreasonable. Chen Qing thought of this and headed straight towards the Yushu palace, preparing to go and pay his respects to the beginning of Yuqing. Chen Qing arrived at the gate of the Yushu palace and saw a young boy. He couldn't help but be a bit stunned, but immediately realized and bowed to him. I am a disciple of the Shangqing Tongtian sect. Today, I have passed the level and come to pay my respects to the teacher. Chen Qing pretended not to know what had happened, but directly recounted it. The boy looked at Chen Qing and couldn't help but freeze at his words. He looked at Chen Qing and was puzzled as to why there were still disciples from Shangqing Tongtian who had not left. I am the White Crane Boy, and now. The White Crane Boy was about to tell something, but was interrupted by a voice. Chen Qing, come into the palace now. Upon hearing this, Chen Qing looked into the Jade Void Palace and then bowed to the White Crane Boy before walking straight into the palace. The White Crane Boy also returned a gift and watched Chen Qing enter the Jade Void Palace, but the doubt in his eyes did not disappear. After entering the Yushu Palace, Chen Qing looked at Yuqing Yuanshi, who was sitting tall in the putuan above, and respectfully bowed. My nephew pays respects to second senior uncle. Yuanshi Tianzuan looked at Chen Qing and nodded. What is the reason why my nephew came this time? Upon hearing this, Chen Qing began to inquire. Second senior uncle, my nephew has been in seclusion for thousands of years, but I don't know what happened. As soon as my nephew left the seclusion, he was ready to come and visit the teacher, but I never expected the teacher to be away. Yuqing looked at Chen Qing at first and then shook her head helplessly. Chen Qing, my third brother has established a dojo on Jiejiao Island in the East China Sea. You can go to the East China Sea to search for it, my nephew. Upon hearing this, Chen Qing respectfully bowed once again. Thank you for informing me, second senior uncle. If nothing happens, my nephew will first go to the East Sea to find a teacher. Upon hearing this, Yuanshi Tianzuan nodded and nodded. Chen Qing saw this and retreated towards the outside of the Yushu Palace. After he left the Yushu Palace, he headed towards the edge of the Kunlun Mountain. Chen Qing came to the edge of Kunlun Mountain and looked at the foot of Kunlun Mountain. It used to be the place where he sought enlightenment, but now that Shangqing is separated, he is leaving this place. Chen Qing's eyes showed a look of memories, but in a moment, he turned his mind, withdrew his gaze, and looked back at the palace behind him. With a helpless sigh, he took a step forward. He stood in the void, glanced around, and then headed straight towards the endless East China Sea. At this point, the leader of the Tongtian sect has already established a dojo in the endless East Sea. As a disciple, he naturally needs to go and pay respects to his own teacher, recognize the path, otherwise, when his own teacher explains the road in the future, he doesn't even know how to walk. What should he do? Chen Qing walked towards the endless East China Sea, strolling in the sky, only to see him step out of the distance of thousands of miles. Yuanshi Tianzun only glanced at Chen Qing, and after seeing Chen Qing leave, he stopped paying attention and continued to comprehend the heavenly way. P.S. The new book sets sail. Kneel down and beg everyone to cast some flowers, evaluate tickets, monthly tickets, and give rewards. Even a single flower, an evaluation ticket, 100 tips, or a monthly pass can do it. I hope everyone can greatly support me.